All right, everybody ready? Yes?
Ready.
Yes? Okay, let's get started. So, today is the due date for the Humanoid Design Challenge, the Floral Humanoid Design Challenge. What is that? Well, that is a community challenge I'm hosting through my subreddit. So, if you guys want to get on that, yeah, I'm going to just have you mute yourself, Cleva, because I am echoing.
Bummer.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So mute yourself, and then when I ask you a question or direct the mic to you, you can unmute and talk, and then it won't echo. So yeah, what is the subreddit? What are community challenges? So if you go to istebrak.com and click on this the Reddit icon up at the top, it'll take you to our subreddit. That is where we hosted our latest community challenge. It's pinned at the top. And to give you a quick rundown, what you're supposed to do is pick a flower or two, max two, of your choice and design a humanoid around it. And there are some restrictions. So some of the restrictions were that it's not supposed to look like a cosplay or a costume, that it was supposed to look like it is constructed of the same organic material that the flower is made out of, that you're supposed to do a lot of research and sketching, that for the structure of the illustration, you're supposed to pick gesture thumbnails and experiment with different ways to distribute space and shape language around the character design. You had the option of doing a blank character design or a illustration, basically like an empty background or background. If you guys wanted to look at the rules, they're here on the community. And I'm not going to read through the whole thing because we have two people on the mic today. I picked two winners. Last minute, I picked an extra winner because I wanted a discussion from the character design aspect as well as the illustration aspect. But for the checklist, they were going to have at least 3 preliminary sketches. So I'm not sure if I caught your experimentational sketches and preliminary stuff, Ahmed. Did you happen to have those available that you could send me as a JPEG? Yeah.
They're all present in the last in the final submission. They're all in
Oh,
the
are they?
same
Okay. Yeah, I'll take a
Yeah.
look through it. And then they were supposed to have a mood board, references, and inspiration collage. Basically, you look up other existing character designs that work from there. You're not going to find exactly what you need, but that's the point, is that you look up references and generate an inspiration splashboard sort of everything that you want to see out of your illustration, to kind of corner it in and see it before it's even complete. It helps you visualize, and visualization is really important. And I'm going to have the two artists here present. I'm going to introduce them to you in a second. Talk about their process and why it was so successful, and how you can also copy what they do and draw inspiration from their process. And then you're supposed to have a photo of the flowers that you chose, and then a little bit of information on just the flower, how it looks in real life, and why they picked these specific qualities about the flower, and how they drew from them to design their character. And then a paragraph narrative added to the draft, describing if there was a world behind this character design, what was the world? What is the role of this character? Should this be a movie or a game? What is that design behind it? So this is, as you can see, it's insane level of detail and research and thought given to a single illustration. And if you wonder why your art's suffering, why your art doesn't look its best, it's because you don't put this level of thought into your illustrations. That sometimes you draw just because you, and there's nothing wrong with that, but if you want to develop a portfolio that shows that you work well in world building, you have to show that you're doing the research behind that. And once you're done with this research isn't supposed to make the process boring. It's supposed to make the process easier. It actually helps you complete your illustrations a lot faster. And again, I'm going to talk to the two here and have them discuss what it is that they did, what they did right, what critiques some of you guys may have for their work, etc. So the first winner is, or they're both equal, but the first one that I picked was Ahmed Jammoul, and he won the last challenge, and I didn't know that. And because his tag on Reddit is Tecton, and I thought it was familiar, I picked the winner, and I'm like, message me on Discord, and Ahmed messaged me. I'm like, no way, you won again. That's so funny. And this was his piece. I managed to convert this one to JPEG since it's the biggest one, which I think is absolutely beautiful. I think all of the boxes are crossed off or checked, and there's just very little I want to change about this, little to none. And then the second winner is this one, which I think is also phenomenal. The colors, the translucency on the petals, like wow. So first, let's talk to Ahmed. Talk to us about the process for this one. What were you after? What were you thinking of? What do you feel like you did right, did wrong, etc.? Go ahead.
So I think the thing to start with is the narrative, the story, or the approach.
Mm-hmm.
My narrative approach was more on like fantastic realism. I
Mm-hmm.
was inspired by the works of Guillermo del Toro.
Mm-hmm.
He did like Hellboy and stuff. He uses fantasy elements in our world, in like it's a part of our real world. So that was basically the inspiration. So it's not a fantasy world, it's our world, but
Mm-hmm.
this creature have somehow existed, and it had to blend in with that, and it's like a creature that evolved to a real environment, in a sense, not bound by magic or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I went about designing it, it was like sliders in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I had several points. So what does humanoid mean to me? So I made like a slider from human to flower, and where did I want my design to fall in? So that was like the first slider. So basically, I had like a set of rules, or like constraints that I had to
Mm-hmm.
abide by to have a real design, in a sense. So what was its scale, its location, what was its type of camouflage? So
Mm-hmm.
camouflage was like a really important, like central to the design. I wanted basically a character that really blended with its environment, if it stood still or like
Yeah,
raised its
definitely.
hand.
Yeah, I do
Yeah,
admire that very much, the extra level of camouflage. So you thought of its role. The role
yeah,
in this case to serve the role requirement, their chosen narrative is camouflage. So that's how he answered
yeah.
that question for anyone who's watching. Sorry, continue.
Yes. So it doesn't stop at camouflage. It goes like a step further. Like, how does this plant feed? So I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want it to feed like a human would.
Of course, it
Uh,
would be photosynthesis since it's a,
yeah,
like
but
any other plant. Yeah.
not just that. Since like I gave it the hands, I did in the narrative. I did point out that it could use photosynthesis if it couldn't grab any insects.
Mm-hmm.
Like it lures insects into
Mm-hmm.
its flower-shaped hand, and it grabs them. But
Mm-hmm.
so, it's subtle, but it's there.
Yeah.
So so that's why I didn't need a mouth, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know.
Very nice.
So this is how I thought about it, and like how does it walk? So how does a
Mm-hmm.
plant walk? How would a plant walk? So again, I thought of vines, how vines would grow, and I came across this plant called the trumpet vine, and I
Mm-hmm.
loved the shape. It like it warped, it like
Mm-hmm.
it twisted and warped to grow into two parts, and I thought that was very interesting, and I used
Yeah.
that for the legs,
Yeah.
and I use them like braids, in a sense. Like if it wanted to reach, it's like it's gonna stretch, and the braid
Mm-hmm.
is gonna tighten. And
Mm-hmm.
if it's weighing on it, it's gonna get loose. So
Yeah.
that's why you get like the unfurled
Yeah.
leg and stuff.
And then
So
discussing camouflage, just the way you look at a stick insect. So camouflage is about behavior in nature as well as how it looks. So if you ever think about stick insects, they wave the way branches wave in the wind. So they actually camouflage in that they're moving. If all the branches are moving and one branch isn't, it's very obvious that that's the insect, and then it gets eaten. So what it does is that it moves along with the sticks, and that's part of its camouflage. So that's really cool that you added that level of detail.
yeah, there is one level of the approach itself, of like how I came with this design specifically,
Mm-hmm.
or the flower. I When I started looking for flowers, so all this talk is yet the premise, the
Mm-hmm.
thought. There's not
Mm-hmm.
much in my mind. So how I came to choose the flower was I was looking for flowers that had some interesting mechanics, like I said with the trumpet vine.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, some interesting mechanic or some interesting shape language, maybe
Mm-hmm.
spiky with round or something. But I came up with this amaryllis, red amaryllis, I remember. And what caught my attention is how it's like made of this central tube, and all the flowers and everything sprouts from that central tube,
Mm-hmm.
except for the leaves,
Mm-hmm.
which is the legs in this case. So everything, if you notice, like the shoulders, the arms, the head, everything sprouts from within that tube, and
Mm-hmm.
that level of realism I was talking about is that when they go inside that tube, they like insinuate to having a torso or like a rib cage. It's not a rib cage; it's just like
Mm-hmm.
tubes like
Like a jug.
swirling together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like a
yeah, yeah.
jug plant. So there's a jug plant. I don't know what it's called, but I'm just going to call it a jug plant. I think it is called a
Yeah.
jug. And it basically looks like a jug, and it has a little lid as well. It's in the rainforest, and water goes through it. It attracts ants, and it actually just catches ants and digests them because ants are attracted to the nectar on its on the lid of its jug. I think it's called a jug. I'm not sure.
It's like a
But
jug,
that's very
but
so.
larger.
So the inside of its torso is supposed to be see through.
No, it's not supposed to be see through,
Well,
but
not see through,
it's
but like translucent.
I still wouldn't say so, but it's
Mm.
supposed to, like, these bumps are like the bumps it has. It implies that there are tubes inside that are like
Mhm.
curling and stuff.
Mhm.
So that would give the illusion of a chest.
Okay.
That was the idea. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's all about my design.
I think
I
it's
think
beautiful. I think you did a wonderful job. One thing I would change or wish you kept from your original sketch is the sense of a rib cage in the folding of the torso piece. So what happened when you rendered it is that it didn't really come out as far as it should have. It kind of feels like an empty zone. So you've got a detail, line of sight moving into the base of the kind of like the hip area. You've got the beautiful petals, but they feel very secondary, the bloom, and then you've got the bud, but then you've got this just empty zone that all the arrows are pointing to. So I'm gonna ask, I'm not sure what to call you, clever girl. I'm just gonna call you by your tag. What is your critique for this piece? What do you think about it? Do you agree that there is a bit of emptiness somewhere in the center of the illustration? Just somewhere in the center of the design, kind of feels like it's a dead zone for detail.
Now that you pointed out, yes.
Mhm.
I don't know if I would have spotted that on my own though. I mean, I
Mhm.
have to say, Ahmed, like, fantastic job. Yours was my favorite submission. It's so
Yeah,
cute.
it's
There's
beautiful.
so much personality here. I see how I can almost see it walking. Like I can see it
Yes.
animating in my head, which I
Mhm.
love.
Mhm.
I love when a piece can do that to you. But yeah, just the detail on the petals and everything is so beautiful. The twisting of the legs and the stems, so beautiful. So yeah, if there would be one area of relief where there isn't that same level of polish, it would be right there
Mhm.
at the torso.
Mhm.
Um, Particularly like the lower part of that torso there, kind of going into the
yeah,
midsection.
definitely.
Yeah, so I wanted to show you guys her submission really quickly. I'm sorry, pronouns. I'm just saying whatever pronoun. I'm just gonna
Oh,
say
you're
her or
correct. That's
she.
fine.
Yeah, is that okay?
Yes.
So you can see here how this is hers. And how would you have solved this problem in the design? So what would you have put there, considering that yours looks like that? So
What would I?
I feel like you answered that question in yours. So do you see, Ahmed? Now that they're beside each other, so she actually, all the arrows are all pointing to the center. And the reason why why I chose the second winner is because I feel like you guys are two halves of this, to make a whole for each other's designs. So his design is very organic. It feels like a real flower. Yours feels a little costumey. But what's missing in his design is what you have in yours. Do you understand? So you guys both have what's missing in the other. So how would you have solved this problem here, this dead zone? Would you have put maybe a third bloom, or I would have put like maybe some kind of thing to pull back from, just bring more red in the center there. It feels a little empty. So how would you have solved that problem? Go ahead.
Me?
Yeah.
Um, so I like my previous version, you can see there was not like that area of the rib cage or any of that. I broke up the anatomy a lot more on this towards the very, very end because I knew there wasn't enough of that. So after doing that myself, I can easily see like where I would create that in your piece. And it could have just been like a simple fix would have been just breaking up with maybe some more negative space in that area, similar as you've done in other areas.
Oh yeah, so maybe
the
like,
legs and stuff.
yeah, so more sinewy, exactly. So maybe
Yeah.
more relief space here would have maybe, yeah, just like kind of extend it, maybe have even a smaller spine, just what's left of a spine, and not bother so much with almost a feminine silhouette in the hip size. It's definitely feminine. It reads as feminine. I feel like you satisfy all of that with the flowers, of course, and the fact that flowers are feminine. But I agree with her. I think some relief or maybe just some more of this sinewy twisting of the vines would have solved this problem. It's just that little bit that's asking a lot from the eyes because it's such a big piece, almost as big as the head. And if you shrink it, either even just removing this entire section, grabbing the entire upper body, arms and all, and just tucking it down. So you don't actually need a torso, stomach, spine area. You just connect it straight into the legs, which looks more awkward and more alien and a little bit more cute as well because it shortens the length. That's how I would have done it. Just completely get rid if I was critiquing. I don't think I'll be doing a lot of paint overs today because of time, but that's something I would do absolutely, is just get rid of that. And then her suggestion is just more vines, more sinewiness, and more relief, more negative space.
Yeah, for sure. And it stands out because there's so much noise around it. Like
Yeah.
you get down to the
Yeah.
legs and there's so much going on, and
Yeah.
above it, yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, we want to focus
Yeah,
on
definitely,
this. This is
definitely.
the best render. This is where it's just the most beautiful parts of the illustration, but this is demanding attention from the viewer. I find my eyes drawn to this negative space, and these end up feeling secondary, which is bad. You don't want that at all in an illustration, because that's where you put in all your work. You want the viewer to focus on that. Plus, if it was a movie, the character would be gesturing, talking with its hands, pointing with its hands. It would be doing a lot of physical movement, physical communication, and I don't think we'd even miss this little bit being removed. So let's talk to Clever Girl real quick. So talk to us about your design. So what were some of the decisions you made? What were some final thoughts you had? Color choice, all of that. Go ahead.
So for my design, I immediately thought, what.
Oh, so you're breaking up.
I'm so sorry. That tends
It's
to
okay.
happen on
Yeah.
my computer
It's okay.
from time to time.
It's okay. Let's just keep trying. If it doesn't work, worst comes to worst, I can just read out your texts if it's not coming through. You were fine earlier, so I guess it's just like it just keeps going.
Yeah, it comes and goes sometimes,
Okay.
and I don't know why with this computer. It's strange.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. But yeah, go ahead.
So I immediately thought about what words came to mind when thinking about flowers, and the first thing I thought of was beauty and vulnerability, and I thought, okay, well, what's something that I can do to detract from that a little bit, like from the vulnerability standpoint.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, I wanted to do something that would maybe be a little less expected, and so immediately I thought of poisonous flowers, something that could be beautiful, but also like really deadly.
Yeah, and these flowers don't even look vulnerable, so you picked them very, very nicely.
Yay! And so I immediately thought of, deadly nightshade. I feel like that's probably the most obvious one. But the reason I chose that one was actually for the berry. When I saw the berry on that plant, I immediately thought, I want just this black berry for a head. Like I don't know what it was, but something just screamed at me.
Yeah.
And I came to the challenge like really late. Because I have a 1-year-old at home. I was recovering from a really bad illness still.
Oh, thank you so much for joining, though. You enriched it. You definitely, I'm so happy you joined it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing these. I love these challenges so much.
Thank you for joining them.
but yeah, I knew that because I was coming to it late, I did not have the time to second guess myself like I normally
Right,
would.
right. So it's all
uh,
instinctive, which is really cool. I like that you drew your, you
yeah,
were drawn to that. Go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to follow my instincts for once and not second guess too much. So I
Mhm.
really only allowed myself three silhouettes, and then whatever stood out from one silhouette, I took and then expanded on that through my sketches.
Mhm.
And then I immediately thought of like the shoulders, like the flower kind of coming out of the chest. I thought that would just be really interesting.
Mhm.
And to add to like that kind of like deadly assassin vibe, I was like, needs like a little bit of mystery. So what if she
Yeah.
just doesn't even have eyes, or the eyes are covered or
Oh,
something?
yeah.
That would be interesting if she just doesn't have eyes, yet somehow she's like out here like
Mhm.
killing other flowers and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and it was
That's cool.
important for me to make her look like she had maybe been in battle a little bit. So some torn petals, maybe some tearing in the stems,
Wow. Yeah.
um, little puncture marks, things like that. But things that could also just look like a stem that
Right.
is
Right.
fragile and can split or tear,
Mhm.
but not necessarily being like vulgar or gory about it.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
and yeah, that's how I came to the idea of like, okay, well, she'll have thorns for legs and thorns for hands and
Mhm.
all kinds of leaves and things coming off, and I can include different textures there, which would
And the
be
purple
fun.
color also feels so dangerous too, because it's the color you see a lot for evil magic in movies,
Mm.
in shows. You see a lot of that dark magic. Have a sense of like that little bit of cool tone, purples, blues, cool reds.
Yeah.
So I think you picked the right color as well. It doesn't feel delicate. It feels, and the three fingers, the two fingers and the thumb, kind of like three edges of a triangle. And the fact that the triangle is used in design cues to show danger because it's a spear, it's a knife, it represents something sharp, something offensive. And so the fact that you chose three instead of two, I mean, she doesn't need any of their weapons, they're thorns. And the triangular shape, of course, of the thorns and the feet. So it's all working really nicely. And the circle of the head, just that perfect spherical shape, is complementing those sharper shapes everywhere. So it doesn't feel completely sharp all the way around. But sorry, continue. Go ahead.
Oh no, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And yeah, especially you were talking about the color choice. That was another reason why I chose
Mhm.
that particular flower, because it's
Mhm.
not just the purple. First of all, it's purple and yellow, which are complementary.
Mhm.
But then also the green, like it kind of takes me back to like the Goosebumps era of like purple and
Oh
green
yeah,
being in
yeah,
like every color
yeah, yeah, yeah.
or every cover. And so I, of course, just went with that because it made sense for what I saw in my head.
Mhm.
And after that, it was a matter of like, okay, how can I not make this look like a costume, which still looks like a costume to me too.
Yeah,
Um,
it's the cape. It's the
yeah.
cape. So the reason it feels like a
Oh,
Yeah,
costume,
yeah.
it's mostly the fact that it's cape-like. So one way you could have incorporated all of maybe no, we need the arms. So we're just here. We could brainstorm all day until the cows come home. But I feel like you could have incorporated them into the arms somehow to feel like they're coming
mm,
out, to feel like maybe they're just growing out of some kind of bud. So in nature doesn't just throw a leaf, a petal at you. It's connected to some kind of base or stem or that I'm not sure what it's called, the anatomy of the flower, but just that bud that they emerge from. You could have done something like that somewhere. So you did it here, and you could have just cut it off so that they just drape around her, these two, instead of feeling like it's connected at the back. Um, but Ahmed, how do you feel like she could have improved with this, and what are some of the things you admire about it?
If this was my approach, I would definitely have like lose the cape,
Mm-hmm.
because
mm,
a lot of the humanoid aspects were hidden in silhouette by the cape. Like specifically, I'm talking about like you notice these little like voids in the
Mm-hmm.
knee.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
these negative spaces and stuff, and the parts where like her skin layers in her chest and stuff,
mm,
it seemed a bit hidden by the cape, by this
Mm-hmm.
layer
Mm-hmm.
behind it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I would keep these two since these are part of the
yeah,
floor. But yeah, this little area here, you could have just made it coming out of this bud. So she blooms out of this, explaining this, this, and that. These
exactly,
here don't feel like costume. They feel like they're part of her anatomy.
exactly.
But it's this little draping here. Then we could have seen more arm. We could have seen more void, just like he mentioned. You could have even keep these two in the back. It's just their origin needs to feel a little bit more natural. So maybe they kind of grow out of the here, let me just see if I could sketch this one at least. They grow kind of out of the, oops, out of that central area. So they kind of do this little thing.
I think my failing here was thinking that it all had to come out from the same area to look like a flower. Like it had to come from the center, you know? And that was part of my original sketch. So I had added on the shoulder petals, which I loved, but then I didn't think about how to reincorporate those other petals to account for that. And I did feel like it looked too much like a cape, and I was like, what can I do?
Yeah.
But I was so afraid of, you know, second guessing things and
Remember,
not
we're
knowing where to
nitpicking.
put it.
We're nitpicking here. You did an amazing job, all things
Oh,
considered.
True.
So we're just being a bit picky, just so that the reason why it's
please
important,
do.
yeah, just the reason why we do it is just because one day you might be working in a workplace environment that requires you follow the prompt like exactly, and know how to work with those kinds of restrictions. That's why these challenges are great because they make you work. It's not everything is up to you. Sometimes you have to make things feel like they're actually a functional organism, humanoid, and that doesn't really dress itself for the sake of it. Everything functions to some level, on the biological level, like as a flower would in real life. So I just did a really rough representation of what I want here. But yeah, you're just basically making everything grow out of the central bud. So it's not here for decoration. This is a functional part of the humanoid, and it's not just there to look pretty. This is where all of the petals are coming out of. And one thing I fucking love so much is the translucency of the petals. Like I love that so much. You guys know me, I love silhouettes. And I love how you made them veiny. You can see the veins as well. Love that detail. So both you and Ahmed had great detail when it comes to the petals. Like he even showed the little ripples in the construction of the petals, how they're just not perfectly smooth all around. That's the stuff I look for when I pick winners, that level of attention to detail. So those are the two things where I say you guys compare, and you guys both have what the other is missing. So Ahmed, that could be a cue for you. Where do all these stems come from? Maybe it's a central bud somewhere that it grows out. So instead of it growing head first, like, or heart first or whatever, it grows from the center, and then its arms and head and legs all bloom out of that center if you're looking at its life cycle. Here it feels like she bloomed out of the center. I don't know if the viewers understand what I'm saying. Do you guys agree? Like it feels like she blossomed and then her legs and arms and head all unfolded out of that center, which I love because you can see that animating in front of you. I'm just going to look through what people have mentioned. Someone's curious about your ages. Are you guys comfortable with sharing that information? So I'm curious,
sure.
what ages are our winners? If they don't mind saying, cool. If they don't want to share, go ahead. Yeah, yeah, it doesn't matter. Go ahead, Ahmed.
I'm 22.
22, and you, clever girl?
I'm 35.
35. So
Wow.
big difference in the ages. Yeah.
And I have a 1-year-old, so it's like.
How did you find time to paint this with a 1-year-old? I just don't know how people do anything with kids.
Slept.
Wow. Whoa. But yeah, the ages are very different. So you can see, guys, age doesn't really matter. A lot of people ask me all the time, I'm at this age, I'm this late to the game. It does not matter. There's no early or late. It's just about how efficient you are with your learning, what kind of community you're involved in, how seriously you took your education early on. Was art just a hobby, or was it just it's important to you is breathing. It's just goals. I don't believe someone is born with talent. I believe that at one point in their life, they decide, I'm going to take this as seriously as I can. And I'm pretty sure both of these artists had that point in their life, and it doesn't matter what age they are. It's just about what they brought when they decided that art was going to be part of their life.
True.
And then the next question is, or comments really, I just want to read everything they're saying. The textures in the second layer of skin really looks thought through. I'm not sure which one they're talking about. If you guys could just mention which one you guys are talking about.
I think they're talking about Devagar's one, specifically maybe the chest area.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the layering here, the many petals. Yeah. Another way it feels a little bit like a costume, by the way, is the helmet. So one thing you could have done to make it feel a little less like that. It is a humanoid, so I understand there's always that level of confusion of how much humanoid, how much human am I adding? But one way that you could have made it feel a little less is if you connected the neck, the green of the neck up, so it kind of looks like a berry just popping out instead of a head with a helmet that's separate from the rest of the organics. So if you connected the neck as if she's wearing some kind of tight hoodie turtleneck type thing, and that would have made it feel like the neck itself is a petal type situation and the berry is just popping out, and that's the head.
But kind of like an extra leaf. Like I have like that small leaf right there, and I did think about extending it up, but I was afraid it would make the silhouette bulky. But I bet if I just kept it like super tight and formed.
Not even that. I just mean like something like this, where you connect it up so the head feels like it'll be a little bit of a delay before you see what I'm doing, but something along these lines. I'm not sure why I have this hard around. And it's just kind of connecting the head upward, and maybe a little leaf situation here as well. So something like that. Just so that it feels like there's more to the helmet that cuts into the neckline, and it feels less like a helmet at the end. Something like that makes it feel like the berry was the side effect of the petals, not the berry came first and the helmet was added on top as an attachment. That looks even more like a helmet. What the hell am I talking about? Just something where it looks like it's growing out. Just something like that. Like it bloomed and then revealed the head as she matured into an older flower.
I have a question for the two of you and for everyone watching as well.
Sure.
There is one part that...
Oh, you broke out.
Yeah.
We're just going to wait till she reconnects. Personally, I like the cape. I do think the silhouette could be more varied, though. There's always something to learn, absolutely. I feel if the purple were more translucent in the middle or blended with the green, it would look more like skin, maybe. The purple were more blended with the green. It's hard to blend those two together because they're almost opposites on the color wheel. They're definitely not neighbors, so I'm not sure how she would have done that. I like the green and the color on top because it looks more like a flower. It's what you'd see. You always see the green of the flower, and then the bloom comes in months later. So I don't mind that so much. It's also really desaturated dull green, which makes her look more like a villain and more dangerous, which also I love very, very much.
The femme fatale.
Yeah, that femme fatale. Exactly. Yeah. I'm not sure if she's back. Oh, you're back? Okay.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
That was also one I didn't know if it was like too femme fatale with the like humanoid hips. Like if I needed to break up the anatomy there? Or
I love the hips. Don't change them. Okay. I love them. They're fucking beautiful. And I feel like if this was a walk cycle on a game, she'd be walking a lot like that league champ, the one without the legs, who also has... Camille. Yes. Oh, wow. I feel like she'd be walking just like that. Very dangerous. The femme fatale is part of part of the villain. So it's okay that you had that femininity there. It's not taking away from the humanoid. So humanoid doesn't necessarily mean genderless. It could have a very pronounced femininity to it. You can add all kinds of variations. Imagine a movie that had absolutely genderless characters throughout. It would be very boring. You want that variety. You want the genderless, and then you want the very masculine, and then you want the very feminine, because it just shows you more of a diversity in the character styles. Let's look at the others. Let's see what you guys have to say about everybody else. As you can see, guys, it's hard for me to critique these and have two speakers. So I'm going to just go through them and have both Cleva and Ahmed talk about them. So let's talk about this one, the chili pepper. Okay, go ahead, guys. Ahmed first, go ahead.
So this one was really interesting for me because it had like very similar elements to mine. I'm in terms of approach, that is, you have like the bud head, the flower for arms, and the way it's spindly, even down to the rib cage implications. But I think the main difference from mine is that this one was more towards that balance of form and function. This was more towards form. Like there was not a lot of actual mechanics and function integrated into it, like the thought process. It was very like surface level, I think. I'm sorry if I'm being mean. But yeah, that's the first thing. The second thing is scale. This is something that I noticed in some entries, but yeah, the scale, what I mean is that they have two different scales of flower. Like you have it confused the hell out of me. So is it like a really huge lady with a bud head, or is it really like a small plant, but there's somehow like miniature flowers existing? There are two scales of flowers existing at the same time.
So they're both competing for the focal point. You're saying minimize one over the other.
Not just focal point. I'm saying like literally. So is it big, or is it or are the other flowers small? You know what I'm saying?
Right, that's what I'm saying. So so which do you feel like should be the biggest of them?
No, definitely
to remedy that. Remedy that, yeah.
Yeah, I would lose the smaller flowers. They don't add much to the general like silhouette and stuff.
Oh, so your problem is with the smaller ones. I thought you meant these buds here.
No,
the head.
Smaller ones.
The very small ones. Okay. To me, they're inconsequential. They feel like they're not affecting the design that much. To me, the confusion is between the head and this gigantic thigh-like structure here that feels a little bit oversized. Feels like a very long and fragile design. So I would say shorten her or him, enlarge the head a little bit, and then give us a chance to see the rib cage a little bit more, because it's part of this kind of like relief that we're getting in between each stem. It's nice to harken back to that a little bit with your design. And then I'm not sure how these were incorporated. Were these just the little flowers? So it's mostly this flower with these little hints of it. I would have loved for you to keep the blue of that lotus. I think that's a lotus. I think it would have been cool if you, is it lotus? Am I just calling it that? Is it just the name Nymphea? Or is that the type of lotus? But it would have been cool if you kept the purple, because right now it just looks a little candy-like, you know? It feels a little artificial. And if you kept the purple there and then enlarged the head a little, you would have, I think you would have gotten a little bit more out of it. And then this flower here reaches a nice sharp point, almost looks like a tooth, where here it looks a bit stubby. So I feel like you lost a little bit of what you were going for in the silhouette. You kept the gradient, but you lost the silhouette. I feel like the best part of this is that sharp little tooth-like point on each of the buds. What do you think, Clever Girl?
I think that, first of all, can you guys hear me right now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, if it gets bad, I can switch to another computer. Just let me know.
Okay.
I'll have to be on my husband's Discord instead, but we can do that if it becomes a problem.
Oh yeah, I can figure it out if you're ready to do that. But go ahead.
So I think that the bud on the thigh is creating like too much of like a lower focal point. So I would get rid of the thigh bud and would enlarge the head by quite a bit, so that
Mm-hmm.
becomes like the new focal point. Because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you want to look at the character of something. We tend to look
Right.
at faces
Yeah.
first and foremost. So yeah, like the smaller buds, I think detract from and create like other areas of focus, pulling away from like the ideal focal point, which to me would be like the rib cage and the head.
The head, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a
Um,
pretty empty zone, but it's so big. It takes up so much space, but it's got little to no detail if you travel the same amount of distance on the canvas as you did the head, where you get a ton of detail, you get no detail traveling the same distance on the canvas. So that's how you know that something is less important than the other. It's the same size, but does way less work. So it should just not be that size. It should be demoted to a smaller size. And you shrink this, then she becomes very spindly. And I agree that it lowers the focal point way too low in the canvas. If you did want more of these, you could just have them hanging out around the rib and creating a focal point, or arrows pointing back up to the head, which you enlarge, and I agree with that as well.
awesome. Is it okay if I send you my husband's Discord and you
Yes.
can? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. I'll go do
Okay.
that real quick.
Okay. So while she does that, I'm just gonna start the next one. So
Well,
Ahmed,
if you want, if you want, I have something to add to this one until Clever
Sure,
comes back.
sure, go ahead.
There's something interesting that I noticed. The flower itself, it has a very unique, as I said before, like mechanical shape. If you want, it layers in a very unique way. The way each bud takes off the one before it. If you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the way they use the buds in their design is very disjointed, which is definitely not what the flower is. They just like took one element of it, if you know what I'm saying. So maybe if we wanted to have like an upper focal point, if we were like Clever was mentioning, maybe have that layering effect of these be the bulk of the chest or the torso, and have the spindly parts coming out of them. So now you have a more like central and focused design rather than this like 3, 4
disjointed, yeah, disjointed design. Yeah. So I think the way you painted the flower is beautiful. I feel like you could have added a bit more shine, so you could see with Ahmed and with Clever Girls, they added this really nice shine. I don't know where it went. This nice little shine that's very three-dimensional, adds that little three-dimensional aspect you see on the cheek. So I feel like you could have done that on. It feels very dull, almost like it's painted by pencil crayons. You know what I mean? Very gritty. Yeah. So it feels like you can add more of that shiny, organic, just rained on, dewy, natural, hydrated look to flowers, which you have here, which I really like. That's why people like just see a cherry or see like a pepper when they look at this, because you captured that right, that scale rise in the values that you kind of missed on the flowers. And it would be really cool if you guys stopped accommodating the focal point too much. Some flowers could be overlapping the face, hiding the eyes a little bit. I think that adds a nice mystery appeal. So that's something you could do for your corrections. And anything we're changing, please feel free to apply these corrections to your pieces. There's no reason why it should stay in that draft. Basically, these are all semi-final drafts for you guys, and they're only really final once you get the review critique. You're getting two amazing artists to critique them for you guys, so that's more than enough, and I really encourage you guys to go back and apply these corrections. So Ahmed, talk about this one.
Wait 1 second. I think Clever's back. Let's check.
Oh, did you want to talk about this one some more? Okay, Casey?
No, I'm ready.
Oh, no, not Ahmed. I'm not sure what to call you apart from Clever.
Sorry, my name's Allie.
Allie, okay.
Or Alicia.
Alicia. Okay, Alicia. Did you want to talk about this one some more? Did you have any final thoughts?
I believe that was everything. You seconded my immediate impression, which is that it looked like a pepper.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the silhouette with taking away that sharp point definitely like changes the look of it from a bloom to a pepper. So I agree with that.
Yeah, completely changed the plant. And that little fine point, almost translucent thorn. It's like the bloom is the thorn, which is so cool. I love nature. I love how it does stuff. And you kind of took that away. Also, you could have made this the feet. I mean, I see this being at the point of the feet. You still have the thorns functional, and you didn't actually need to figure out the feet. The feet don't have to be feet. It's just in the shape of arms and legs, and you could have kept the thorn to look like those, you know, those extensions. Sometimes people who yeah, I don't know what they're called. The people use them to jump and play basketball with, especially people who don't have legs. They almost look like that little bouncy things. I don't know what they're called.
I know.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about now. But you could have just made the feet look like that and extended the thorn a little bit. But let's move on. Talk about this one, Ahmed. What do you think about this piece?
1 second. It hasn't showed yet.
Yeah. Maybe I should share my screen with you guys so you guys can just look at my screen.
Oh wait, there's a bit of delay. Everything's fine now. Okay, so right. This one.
I'm sharing my screen now on Discord, so if you guys wanted to get more of a live, you could go on Discord screen share.
1 sec.
That way you could just stay on the same. Yeah, I should have just turned that on at the start. Go ahead. The running prosthetic legs. Yes, then exactly the prosthetic. Yes. But yeah, go ahead, Ahmed.
Okay, so this one, okay, it still had a lot of that human aspect to it, but I really like how the spikes actually come out of it. Like they don't behave as like additional layers on top. Like they don't look like actually like prosthetics. They look like they're part of her. But I think the thing that drove it a bit down is it still looks a bit human.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah.
But other than that, I love the colors. I love the desaturated green. Maybe it could be pushed a bit, but it's really nice.
Yeah.
I don't think I have much. What do you think,
Ali?
Alicia?
Yeah, there's so much, like, I kind of ride the fence on some of my critique on this one, so I'm sorry if it's confusing.
It's okay.
Because it's like my immediate instinct would be to create a little bit more asymmetry in the gesture so that it doesn't feel like doll-like, you know? But at the same time, there's something endearing about the gesture where it feels kind of like shy
Just
and timid.
Standing.
Yeah. It's like I kind of go back and forth on that.
Right, because it's a thistle, I believe, if I'm mistaken. Yeah, or something thistle-like, and it's such a mean-looking flower, but to give it the personality of shy and timid is also really cute. Like this whole misunderstood flower is actually really shy and gentle, and everybody's giving it a bad rep. Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah, it's actually the opposite of what Alicia did.
Oh yeah, right, yeah. And then I think that it should be more saturated. I think that the nose and the mouth should go, or the mouth should stay, the nose should go, the nose should stay, the mouth should go. Something needs to be removed so that it feels less like she has nasal passages and sinuses and whatever. A humanoid flower is a really great brain exercise to help you combine biology and the outer biology, like the inner biology of a flower and that function, and the outer biology of what looks to be human. So it makes you ask questions you've never asked before. Like, what does she need a nose for? Does she use her nose? How does she procreate? What is this creature and how does it work? And so when you include too many human things, it feels like lazy design. It's easy to add a face and make it look pretty and just have the movie or game done. But to create something that feels like you're looking at a creature design, like you're looking at something that is so wondrous and so fantastical, and something that could actually be, you have to think a little bit further than eyes, nose, mouth, and pretty face, and a little hairdo, and it looks very, very cosplayish. It definitely does, especially the collar. I mean, you've seen this collar in fashion over and over and over and over again. You've seen it in villain designs across the board. You've seen it just looks like she has on a bodysuit with thorns, and kind of like a costume you'd wear for a stage production. so that you could be the ballerina that is the thistle and the dancing thistles dance or something like that. That feels very lazy in that way. Not to say that you're a lazy artist, but the thought behind it could have been pushed a little bit further. The headpiece, you could have, like, one, if you really wanted to incorporate that collar, you could have done something, and I don't know if you guys agree. Let me know if you think, you know, how we can incorporate these two together. But the thistle head is the whole thing behind it, or the thistle-like flower. And so you could have picked the collar as the central kind of the main bloom aspect, and the eyes just peeking out, something like that. We don't get any more of that human. You could have added a couple more of the flowers hanging out the way you would with the wildflower, a couple more here and there, so it feels like she's just one big bloom, to make it feel a little bit less like, you know, so the humanoid doesn't actually have to walk. It could like move in different ways. So you could have pushed that aspect further. How does it move? How does it function? How does it what's the main function when you're looking at it? What does it do mostly in the movie or game? So you could have lengthened the legs a little bit or the arms, made them kind of move together. So it doesn't need legs. It's just the way it moves is just the way the stems would move in the wind. So it kind of like a centipede, you know how it has many legs and they're all moving to create one large motion, but it's due to the small motions here and there. And then just getting rid of the eyebrows. It does not need that. It's not, eyebrows are shade from the sun, so it's flower, it needs sun, so it doesn't need any of those indicators that sun is a damaging aspect. It wants sun, and the humanoid is that it's got two eyes that it sees from, something like a brain. Maybe it doesn't have a brain. Those are the things you guys should be asking yourselves when painting something as complex as a humanoid, and then mixing it with existing animal or plant biology. Something like that could have broken up a lot of this stuff and gotten rid of the costume feel and made it feel a little bit more like a functioning plant first, and then a human second. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, now it looks like a bunch of flowers, like a bouquet, not just a single flower.
Yeah.
I go back to my idea of camouflage. That would really help Floral humanoid pretend it's like a shrub or something.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna actually redo the eyes completely, and it adds that cute shy thing we all liked at the start, where it's just hiding behind. I think I still have my pixel art settings on. I was messing around with pixel art recently. So that cute shy look to the eyes is still there, to the personality, sorry, and it's just peeking through. It's not really a very talkative character. It's very shy, but also packs a punch. And I think that's when I say, you know, you could have put more thought into it. This is the thought. These are the questions you should ask. So a lot of you will wonder, how do I get to the point where I'm asking these questions? How do I teach myself to ask these questions? And it's hard to force yourself to think like that. I understand, but you just have to believe in your character, I guess. You just have to believe in the design. You have to imagine yourself as the character. Like I said, you can't be an artist without being an actor to some degree, because you have to think like your characters. You have to be like your characters. And all of that it works the same. It helps you. One answers the question for the other. That's why you find a lot of actors who are artists at heart, and it's just empathy. You just have to imagine yourself as that character, but also the design restrictions behind it. Just and widen your imagination, really. And I feel like that's what the two artists did today, is they widened their imagination, thought about functional decisions in the story or game or movie, and that's how they created such successful designs. Did everybody mention something about this one? Can we move on to the next one?
Good.
Yeah.
I would like to mention just
Sure.
one thing.
Sure.
Because first of all, like, I really loved the eye that this artist painted, but with that eye and the nose and the mouth, it starts to appear like makeup, right?
Yes.
And so you fix that by showing less of the face. And it's funny because by showing less of the face, you've actually brought out somehow more personality, which you wouldn't have been expected, but it now reads as a really shy character. You don't even have to add asymmetry within the gesture because now it's in the biology, and that immediately makes it a more interesting character. I also feel like maybe this character could benefit from a white background.
Oh, absolutely. That was one of the first things that came to mind. The gray, I mean, I didn't saturate it, and if you want to keep it gray, go ahead. But just the white background might bring out some more saturation opportunity for the purples. So I completely agree with that. It really, see, now you don't need to saturate anymore because it's the white is doing all of that for you. It's making a bit more sense.
I don't know why I'm always like, I'm opposed to that idea, because I would have gone like all the way to black.
Really? Yeah. It's just that black background. I mean, you did it well in yours, but black background and bloom, it's like night and day. You don't really see the flowers bloom unless you were picking a night blooming flower, which would have been really cool. Yours is not really a dark light environment in that it's dark and we can't see anything. Where is yours? You do have some sunshine somewhere peeking through the floor of the forest, revealing your flower. So even you didn't choose a black nighttime. So even you needed sunlight. So blooms and sunlight kind of goes hand in hand. One needs the other, even functionally. Let's move on really quickly. I'm at 0. Just because it lets us see everything. Okay, this one's really interesting because I loved these sketches for this one. Go ahead first, Ali.
Oh, sure. I remember seeing these sketches early on, and I loved how it was definitely more on the side of the floral versus the humanoid, which I love.
Yeah.
Those are the submissions that I enjoyed the most. Was yours, Ahmed, seeing that it's more towards the side of the flower than the humanoid, whereas I feel like I was kind of like right in the middle, and I probably needed to be more one or the other. So I really, really admire artists when they go more towards one or the other. And this was one of those where it was like in the sketches, you had to kind of look to see the human, but then there it was. So I really, really enjoyed this.
I agree.
I almost wish maybe there was more of a transition from the petals and the heads that doesn't just look like hair, but maybe there was like a subtle transition there where it looks like it's not a headdress, but is a part of the anatomy somehow.
Yes. Another headdress situation where you have to
it's so easy to fall into that.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Especially with artists who don't have
flowers.
Fashion background, or they have a light, not fashion background. We're not all fashion designers. But we, I found myself, as when I was younger, drawn to runway just because I loved seeing all that stuff. I'm pretty sure we all had that at one point. Especially those really crazy runway stuff. But you can see how it gets old. That big headdress, Vegas, all of that stuff gets old. And so that should have been an early part of your development, that everything gets a headdress. And then you kind of mature out of that. So why not bring it down to the neckline like we just did and make the eyes peering out? Why not bring it down to the chest line and have the petals start at the chest and then the eyes and the head and the arms peeking out of it, but we get some of the torso coming up? That's fashion design. You're pushing the limit each time. Why don't we drag the flower and make it bloom along the hip line, and it's just like an upside down tutu? And that will also let us capture some of the humanoid, camouflage it really nicely, but like the botanist is looking through his selection of lotus flowers and then sees one of them has arms that he thought were just twigs. Turns out it's just a little creature that just camouflaged so well. That's the kind of thinking you have to do. So everybody has a fashion background. I completely understand, or interest in fashion, why you guys are always falling into the trap of headdress, but push the limit each time. You have Photoshop. It's very forgiving. You can crop and cut stuff up till you're satisfied and find different combinations, and you'll surprise yourself. You'll just throw some random stuff together and it'll just read so well. You do a couple tests with gesture and you pushed it so much further than just stopping at the brick wall of a headdress. Ahmed, what do you think of this piece?
Okay, so this one, in addition to all the points you mentioned, because I did feel the same, I think its main weakness was they went too much in the way of like floral, and then they remembered they need to have human. So they just like had this very human face and this very human like body and breasts and hand. The hand seemed like almost they had bone like, you know, like
Like what?
there's like they have bones, like they have
Mm,
joints and
mhm,
stuff,
mhm, mhm,
you know.
mhm,
So the human part of it feels a bit slapped on. And actually, you know, the petal, the lily pad, whatever,
mhm,
the one that acts like a dress. I don't mind that. I don't think this is like a dress design. I think this could, like, it organically fits. It's not forced to be a dress.
mhm,
It's a
mhm,
part of it. But the human part is the weakest element of this design, I think.
mhm, mhm.
I
So
Ma-
agree there.
yeah,
It's a
go ahead.
very, very human face.
Yeah, that was the. So when I first saw this a couple of critique hours ago, I saw it, took my breath away, and I just loved it. And I think a big part of that initial impression I had of it was that it didn't have a face, and it
Yeah.
was just the flower, and that's just how it communicated. It was different from other flowers. It was mutated. It had that. It's kind of like the same story behind. Um, what are those? What are those? They look like ginger root, but they're manticore, manbull, mantic. What's the mythological? I think Abu knows what it is. But basically, it's just somewhere down the line, it just became human, and it's just slightly different from the other roots around it. And I loved that you can barely see a face, no imprint. Because if you were going to add some indentation, mandrake, yes, if you were going to show some indentation of the eyes and nose and mouth, but no detail, it looks kind of ghoulish, almost like a creature that is like a ghostly creature. And then here, it's just way too detailed, almost creepy, you would say, that the dead eyes and the nose and the mouth. So it just does damage if you add any aspect of the face. Why not just get rid of it? Let the flower do its thing and then invest more, just like this gesture right here. So cute, so delicate, so ballet-like, so long, and then just put more effort into the silhouette. Maybe even push it into that big hip, feminine read if you want to go there, and just put more effort into the body type, into the arms, into the joints. Maybe it's multiple jointed arm. Um, Maybe there's just less, there's no head at all. Maybe the head is the flower, and you just can forego that. But I think it adds that nice early bud to it. What are some people saying? Unless you want it to be creepy, it just depends on what the intention is. Unless you want it to be creepy, true, but I think these pastels that you started off with were so pretty, and then here you added some more shadow. So if you guys remember, do you guys remember how character designs used to look in 90s movies? They just had that unintentional creepiness to them. And that's because they didn't think about that extra level of science when designing the characters. They didn't think about, it's not just about costume. For instance, the way they designed the dog dragon from Neverending Story, the way they designed some of the creatures from what was it? I don't want to imitate what that annoying crow character does. What was it called? Abu, you know what I mean. Damn it, what is it called? The Magic Fountain or something. It's puppets. It's like live action puppet movie. Very, very creepy as well. Dark Crystal.
Oh,
Yes,
crystals.
Dark Crystal. Very creepy because they didn't think about how to make everything function nicely. I was about to imitate that guy's annoying whining. But yeah, that's what I mean. It kind of feels like that. So when you want creepy in this day and age, in this new mature design mission statement that we all have in movies nowadays, is that make it feel real. Like there was just this revolution we had at one point 10 or 15 years ago where things just started to feel really real in movies, and they just pushed that grittiness of reality more and more, and that created this whole new world of science merged with art. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Try to make the flower as functional as possible and pass as human without adding that head. And if you wanted creepy, just take away some of the face. In fact, creepy could look it could look creepy without the face. It could look creepy with some kind of skeletal construction. It could look creepy without a head. The best creepy I have ever seen is in Constantine, when all of those demons have half a face. They just just cut the face right in half. It was insane, and it worked, and it was so amazing, and it was so simple. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Constantine and the demons in
Yes.
there, but wow, it was so different. And I'm not sure if it's similar to what you see in the comic books. I don't have a big comic book history, and I'm not very well read with that, but I don't know if it was unique in those movies or they just moved away from the comic book, but there are ways to make things look creepy, and painting a face and making it look stone dead is the cheapest one. Let's move forward with the next one. Okay, this one's really interesting. Such a delicate bloom. Sorry, did everybody talk about this one yet? Did you talk about this one, Ahmed?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, okay. Such a delicate bloom, morning glory, which is the most gentle thing I've ever seen as a flower. You made it into a warrior, which is really, really cool. What do you guys think about it? Go ahead, Ahmed.
Okay, so
Hello?
I am
Okay.
really annoyed by the cape, by the shell, the thing.
The little
The dra-
things? Yeah, these
yeah.
things?
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna be more structured.
Uh-huh.
I think I've seen earlier sketches of this design, and I believe they were more successful because earlier they didn't like these one at the top, yes. No, yeah, maybe these, yes. Because I felt like they were still like searching for the purpose of the of their character. They were not like so fixed on what the character should be. They were still more flexible, and it showed. But then you notice they started to have this very strong idea of them wanting to be a warrior, and everything just like came back to that.
Plus, there's no
Uh,
part of the flower that has that
exactly.
unless it was some other
Yeah,
flower
exactly.
along with it, but I think it was only morning glory.
Yeah,
No,
and it kind of looks metal.
Yeah,
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 exactly,
Like
exactly.
metallic.
That is
yeah.
exactly the point that really like shook me a bit
Mm,
because okay, I get it. If you wanted to have a fighting flower, sure, but how would a flower fight? It wouldn't have a sword. They wouldn't do smithing. It's a flower.
But
You
remember,
know,
it's a humanoid, so they get that flexibility in the concept. Let's say some crazy writer came to them and said, yes, it's a whole community of flowers and there's blacksmiths there. So you have to follow that rule. But how would you
yeah.
make it work? So restrictions are possible. All restrictions are possible. It's the artist's responsibility to make it functional. But yeah, I get your point. Go on.
Yeah, true. But how do you immediately communicate it? You had to explain to me an entire story in order to me to be convinced. But immediately, like they already had a good design. They had like a stick that is actually used as a weapon. That is probably how a flower would fight with sticks, most
Thorns.
likely,
Yeah.
or maybe instead of a blade, maybe a sharpened rock or a piece of wood. More primal in a sense. So that's it. But you can see that they really wanted to push that warrior, so they added that like draping element and the sword and the blade and stuff. And again, this one threw me off in terms of scale because specifically of the sword and the giant bloom on the top, because they have like smaller flowers and the same exact flowers, just gigantic. And
I never
with the
minded
blood.
that. I never mind that. You know, that for me personally, I love that stuff. I love the little pieces and then the big pieces, and I love all of that. But I do see what you're saying is that it's throwing off the function, like why would it have smaller blooms if it has one big one? Shouldn't it be the only individual bloom? But remember, it's a humanoid, so those things are passable. But what's not passable, the stuff I agree with you, is the metal-like thorn, unless this is a diamond or some kind of glass or some kind of ice. And but we haven't indicated that there's any ice to this character. Winter pretty much kills flowers.
Indeed.
And then the metal, which I think you rendered really nicely, but it just does not match. There's no other thing that works with this, that it just feels like it looked good in a silhouette and you liked it, but you weren't sure how to incorporate it. I think if you turn this green and made it more, because how a morning glory grows is that it's like a vine. It just attaches to things and sends out little curly, like a cucumber plant. It sends out little curly arms looking for something to latch onto. So it's a climber. So I would say it's a creeping plant, and it just grows if you let it, and it'll take over your garden. So I feel like that's one way you could have made him take over his enemy. He just kind of throws his arm out and it just ensnares his enemy in and chokes them out while also delivering the deadly blow.
Yeah.
I would even keep this if you had to, if the writer was lunatic and he said, I want them to have metal, steel,
I want a blacksmith.
If that's exactly what they wanted, fine. But then you would say, no, the metal makes no sense on the flower. Let's just bring in some kind of organic nature. So to fix this, turn it green and then just show those little spindly things that look for something to attach to choke them out. One thing before I ask Ali to add her opinion, one thing I don't like at all, I just don't like it, I don't want you to change it, are the pectorals and the masculine silhouette. I feel like it's such a huge headdress and you pretty much did what I wanted, which was turn the head into a flower. A flower, if you were going to go that far with the flower aspect of the humanoid, why not just make it as kind of like both male and female, just as a flower is, and get rid of that really definite masculine, human, bulky gym steroid. Yeah, like
I mean muscles.
yeah. I just feel like it's very masculine, and it's kind of bordering on uncanny. So I would get rid of that completely and just give us a very genderless kind of silhouette that makes it look like a royal guard or something like that. Then it really will feel like this very individual flower humanoid thing, and it makes sense that a morning glory would be a royal guard because it just grows and like covers an entire wall, kind of like a wall to protect a kingdom or something like that. So you could have pulled from all of that, get rid of the gender in the very defined gender in the design. I'm not sure what the gem is doing. That metal, turn it into some more greens, and it'll feel just like a wall, a protective wall, a royal guard type of. And then I would change the blade because you're not working under this extremely strict writer. I feel like you could change it into a thorn or a stick or something that it's growing up against. But Ali, what do you think?
Sure. Yeah, I have a few thoughts on this. First thing, I agree about the masculine silhouette. I think one easy fix would be to take out like the bulkiness of that midsection and like just create like spine and like some hip bones, you know what I mean? And then like leave like the hips as they are and stuff like that. That could totally work. But right now it does read as bulkier, especially in comparison to like the size of the floral head. And I also agree with Ahmed that some of the earlier iterations I thought were really super cool. Like it was just like there were some of those where I was like, oh, these are some really cool ideas, and I wanted to see those explored more. So what I would do if I were to fix this piece to suit like my own personal tastes, I would get rid of the cape thing because I feel like it detracts from just the overall strong silhouette. If it's a warrior, it wouldn't make sense to be there because it would get in the way, unless this is like how it's dressing for like royal ceremonies or something. I would create more negative space there in that midsection of the torso. And then one of my biggest changes that I would really personally like to see in this piece is to like lower the bloom a little bit, expand it, and then just get rid of the eyes entirely.
I agree.
Like just the head.
Thank you.
Yeah, 100%.
Like I feel like that would be so much cooler looking, you know, and would really work for like a floral character and also a warrior. Like it would just seem a little bit more threatening without eyes, without some sort of face.
Kind of like, personality-less. Like it doesn't care what you have to say. It's going to guard, and there's no way to appeal to it or have a conversation with it. It's just dangerous. And you kind of did something amazing with the morning glory, is that you made it look dangerous. Such a delicate little flower, but you made it feel like a strong flower. I like that you did something with that, and the purple and the orange made it look even more dangerous. I also love how you made it white going inward. But I want to try to Photoshop some of these changes for you, but I don't have time. But basically, you gave us a lot of choices, and it feels like you picked a lot without user input. So all you're getting right now is user input. So you mentioned so many, I do not like these. Yeah, like I understand that, there's a lot of stuff we're not responding well to, but you also had some stuff that we responded very well to. Like, look at this staff. Like, I love that.
It looks
Look at
cool.
this gesture. This gesture is so much more active. Kind of not, is it masculine? Is it feminine? I can't tell. And you've got the little thorns that you incorporated as well. So you had a lot to work with. The eyes, I would remove them for me personally, but they work. They can work. They can go somewhere where if you had to have them in the design, they are passable. So they're not that bad. It's mostly just the metal here that threw us off. Felt heavy compared to such a light flower. Felt very heavy compared to such a delicate dressing here, and the chest felt very heavy and the same width almost, which is a big problem because you guys are always skipping scale measurements. You guys don't do enough scale passes. Is that this size is the same size as so it felt very blocky and very square. And if you've ever seen a morning glory climb, it's so sinewy and delicate, and it flows with the wind, and that's why so many gardeners go for it, because it creates such a delicate wall backdrop behind other more structured flowers. So of all the flowers, I don't think a morning glory is the most structured, and so you could have borrowed from that a little bit more. You can still have a warrior without a masculine triangular chest, midriff, and you can have a warrior that's very thin and long and spindly. It's about the gesture that makes them a warrior. It's about other indicators here and there, especially the weapon, that makes it feel like a warrior. So you could still have that sexy warrior you mentioned earlier, and get rid of a lot of these overlapping concepts like the metal and the light fabric, or the chest and the thin short legs. It's not all of it has a synergy.
One second. I have like two minor points I like to add to that design.
Sure.
I believe what they intended with the eyes is like that samurai hat, and you only, that anime scene when you only see the eyes. I think that's what they were going for. That's one point. The second thing I want to talk about, the severed arm. Going back to what you were talking about, like the way it spreads out the morning glory. Maybe yes, because it's a fighter, it had a severed arm. But what if it regrew, and you can still see that part of it was severed, and a part of it is like fresh in a sense, if you know what I mean. It's like new. That could be an interesting concept, specifically because it's a flower, and that probably, if a flower were to fight and lose an arm, that's what a flower would do.
And think about Groot. Groot, how he grew back his arm.
Exactly.
He's a great humanoid design. He's got the face and all that, but his head looks like a trunk. The top of his head is not really a top. Doesn't really have a brain. He's made up of twisted stuff, and it all matches. He does have a very masculine body, so but it also feels unthreatening, but also feels very strong. So they had a specific design in mind for Groot, but here you're kind of in between all of them. He didn't have blooms coming out of his head, and he didn't have, so they didn't overlap too much. Basically, his arm was his weapon. He turned it into a sharp point, but other than that, he had a couple fingers when he needed it for gestural purposes. But he was more human than floral or organic, where here you guys have a lot of organic because you're artists and you want to have fun with it and you want to have more floral in it. Let's move on. How about this one? What do you guys think of this one? Ali, go ahead.
I enjoyed the sketch more over the final version.
Which one?
Sorry, honestly, some of the other concepts were really nice too. Like I remember, so right here on this page, there's the orchid with the big floral right around the head. It's kind of towards the center of the...
Oh, this one. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
wow.
it looks so cool, like coming around the head. Like I feel like that was super cool.
Feels
I love
like
the one
a priestess or some kind of royal person. Really, really like it.
It's amazing. It looks so cool. Like I just really love that concept. Also, the one at the very top right almost looks like maybe a princess flower, but also could read as costume. So I understand why they didn't go that route. But even in their final submission, if you scroll back to it, the sketch that they have showing the front and the back, you can see that there are some slight differences, and I actually preferred the sketch version more with the petals kind of going
Upward.
It creates a more interesting silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, I don't know, some of it reads as costume, which, we all fall into that. I get it. I even fell into it. It happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like I preferred the silhouette there. I feel like maybe the anatomy could have been broken up a little bit, either through negative space or change of texture. Little things here and there that could have just helped sell it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one thing that stands out the most to me is the foot. I just wish there wasn't like flat foot there.
Oh,
I would have liked to see more of like a flower anatomy.
Yeah.
And then the same thing that we've said with every piece so far is like the face.
Yep.
It looks like there's like a head cap and then there's a human face. So it does feel more cosplay and costume, which we all have struggled with, of course.
Yeah.
So I sympathize. But yeah, I wish I would have seen more of that silhouette taken from the sketch and would have just seen a little bit more of the floral anatomy versus the human anatomy.
Okay, so one thing I wanted us to do for today was collaborate on changing one together, just all of us kind of pick something to change. So one thing that I wanted to mention is that I know that the costume thing. So let's talk about that. You guys want to have those pretty dress situations when you're painting a feminine, royal, high priestess type thing. I get it. It's part of it, and every single person almost had some quality of clothing. Really, what you're doing is you're forgetting why the clothing is doing what it's doing. Why does this clothing have slits down the middle on either leg? It's to reveal the legs. It's to emphasize the curves. So how about we just get rid of the clothing completely? And I just wanted to talk about how to push it each time. So just basically showing these artists how to push themselves, and you guys can all add your input. One thing I would do is, now that I got rid of the clothing, let's see if I could push it further. So I have really uninteresting, basic female body, and I have these amazing petals that are doing all the work, and I want it to feel less like costumes, like kind of like a back setup where it has those Victoria's Secret wings. I don't want it to feel like that. I want it to feel like real petals. So why not just why not have the negative space be in the shape of a female, and then just have kind of flowers revealing, so you don't really get that.
Interesting concept.
Yeah, so you still have the negative
space. I would have done that.
Yeah, so you kind of just have the negative space. You get the curves, but this is all empty space. It just looks like a female. The silhouette is just reading as a female, and then you push it even further. And then you think, okay, what am I doing with the chest? Where's the main stem? And so you just kind of try to create some kind of stem coming out. And look at that, we still have the hips emerging. And then you think about the shoulder section. Why not just connect those then? Just keep them all working as if they're all connected in the same biology and the same structure. And then the neckline, do we really need that little shoulder piece? Again, using negative space to reveal more of that neck. And then there's just the mouth and nose. And how do we push that even further? So why not just kind of remove that whole jawline eating mouth thing? Because if you're missing a mouth, you're missing a jaw. And you don't really have that opening in the mouth area, so you just have this simple little shape, and then you can just push that negative space even further, and then now you have very humanoid looking thing. Of course, you might not take a lot of these changes, but you have a very humanoid looking read. You satisfy all the categories, you meet all the requirements, but you don't have it looking like a costume. So what are some of the things you guys would have done, starting with Ali, to make this feel less like costume, and just basically give them, instruct them on how to push their thoughts a little bit further?
Are you saying from the piece that has not been touched?
Yeah, so like
or
this
are
one.
Are we expanding on what you've done?
Oh, no, you can just start from scratch from what I've done. So
Okay.
I'll put it beside each other. Yeah, go ahead.
Gotcha. I guess, like, for me, I was trying to think about like where the actual anatomy of the flower was and what what each biological feature would look like in relation to each other. So for my piece, you know, I knew I wanted the flower coming out of the chest, which meant everything had to stem out from there. And this artist did something similar where it's like the flower and the bloom coming out of the back. So it's kind of similar. It's just on the opposite side. It's just in the back versus the chest. So I would like to see, like, from wherever the bud of the flower is, normally there are some leaves there that kind of come out of the stem, and then you get the bloom of the flower, right?
So it seems like the bud is almost
say
right there. So did you want me to, I just want you to tell me where to put my brush.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, so let's see. I'm trying. Yeah, that's kind of where I would see the flowers coming out, and I would imagine we would want to see those leaves coming out from that area, and then the stem would come out from that, and then maybe that would feel less costumey, if that makes any sense.
So the stem would cancel out the female. How would you do it? Oh, like you mean like the petals replace the legs, and we just have a stem?
I mean, you absolutely could. I mean, there's any number of ways to create the biology of the flower, but I would have wanted to see more of the flower incorporated into the anatomy of the human, if that makes any sense, versus having the human element and then the floral element and then just sticking them together. So I would imagine there has to be like a transition from the flower on the back to the human anatomy. So whether you wanted to have like the human anatomy being like the stem, then maybe that would mean that the torso area, that's all those leaves that kind of go into the bloom. So maybe even the arms could be like instead of being like a stem, they could be like those leaves or something like that, you know, and then the legs could be the stem, or it could just be one stem versus two individual legs, but something that would make sense as to why the flower is there blooming on the back.
Right.
And but that all would have happened in experimentation for me to figure out like what I would go with.
Almost like a mechanic, just kind of over, you know, the blueprint of a car. You think about how it's going to move. You think less like a designer. You think less of what looks pretty with what that also looks pretty, and more actually thinking about, if I was to make this a robot, how would this move? How would this work? So a lot of thought on function. So I'm just getting rid of the design, the clothing, and just trying to just give you a quick idea of what Ali's talking about. So I'm just gonna work from what they're talking about here. So the arms are in front of this bloom, but this bloom is both in the front and the back here. So this bloom is this leaf or petal is that petal. We still have the legs. We get rid of that skirt, which really didn't fit. They don't need skirts. They don't really have clothes unless that's really important for the design. And then you could add just one more flower there. And then what would you do about the neck? That whole area there.
I mean, right now the leaves on the head definitely read like more like a hat.
Yeah.
So I would maybe have
the hairline
instead of that hat. Yeah, I would maybe have the leaves kind of coming up off the back of the neck or something like that. Something that breaks up the appearance of it looking like a hat and it instead looks like leaves. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm always trying to find, like, for me, I try to find the function first and then bring in the beauty, because otherwise I'll just fall into the trap of a costume.
That's very smart. So I'm just gonna do whatever I think you mean, and then obviously.
Yeah, I know it's hard to communicate.
No, it's okay. I'm just letting I'm acting like I'm the student, and I'm just trying to take your advice and apply it. Ahmed, what would you do?
Okay, so your approach, the first one you did, I would have done something similar, but not as extreme. Because the one you did, Istebrak, you used the negative space to insinuate the hips, presence of hips. In my mind, I'm not sure in your mind how that would work, but in my mind, that wouldn't really read well in 3D or in 3/4 view.
I just see it, the way I see it is like there's this moment, there's an altar, and then the beautiful queen comes out.
She's walking down.
And then, and then the negative space shows some light, but it's not really her body. It's just the the indication of the feminine, and then you have that. So you see a flower first, and then you see the curves of the female second, almost like butterfly like. And that would bring out the most of what they had out, and then ignore the rest. Yeah, that's all I mean.
Okay,
That moment of
yeah,
revealing, the light shining through.
yeah, I get that 100%. But in my mind, I would take that and like instead of going that extreme, I would use again the petals as legs. I would have done that, but I would have brought down the torso to the middle. Remember when you told me that my design could have benefited from bringing down the torso area,
Mm-hmm.
bring it a bit down, like literally have the torso be the center of the bud of the flower, and the legs are petals. Um, in the same way we were talking about the design that looked like a pepper. Remember that one?
That looked like a what? Sorry, you broke out.
A pepper.
A pepper, yeah.
Yeah, and in the same way we did that, I would have done something similar to that.
Okay, so let me just
Yeah.
do something like that.
And in one of my early sketches for my design, I used them like flaps. They don't just like stand at a point. They're like almost like frog legs, but not necessarily. But they curve.
They
Yeah,
flatten
yeah,
along
yeah,
with the
yeah,
horizon
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Um,
like they almost flap around. So
yeah.
it may look a bit silly, but yeah, in my
It
mind,
doesn't.
like
Yeah. So we have to make sure we're sticking to the original design. So she's some
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
royal female,
indeed.
some kind of important character in the narrative. Whatever. She has all the fixings of a very important beauty.
True. So I would just use the same like curvature of the yes, exactly
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Almost ballet-like, reaching a point. And
Yeah.
then what would you do about this area if they were trying to fix this? They watched this critique.
I was bringing. I told you I would have brought it down, like almost
The
like
whole.
shrink the. Yeah.
So you'd 1 second. So you'd bring down.
Bring down and maybe. Yeah, almost like that, but also the head goes down a bit with it.
How so?
In the same way, like just.
So the head is short. So we're losing the feminine. So remember, we're not making a whole new design. We want to keep it reading as that female, the original thing that they wanted. So
yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah.
Because my mind will immediately go wherever it wants. In some direction, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why in mine I kept that neckline and just you basically find the lowest common denominator of the design. So you keep pushing it, simplifying further and further and further each time. And you can see how the petals here are overlapping, and you still get that basic teardrop head shape, but you get the eyes still, you get the neckline. So we simplify more and more each time. So in yours, so you simplified by connecting everything together in that central point where all the petals, the flowers come from. And then the arms are secondary, almost like they're big sleeves that are billowing up. But I'm not even sure if Ali even recommended this. I think I just did this out of my own head. I forget what you recommended.
Yes,
oh yeah,
you were doing it.
Yeah,
it's just hard to explain what I mean.
Right.
In
Yeah,
regards
now
to
I
body.
remember. Yeah. So I like how you brought yours all the way down because it gives us that more that negative space, and then it just lets the neck get longer. So as you guys know, the neckline is part of what makes a female read as that Aphrodite trope. So just a longer neck always reads as more beautiful in cartoons and movies and stuff like that, especially actresses who have that long neckline. They're cast for those love interest roles. And so you guys want to keep that if you want that beautiful feminine power type of regal, poised, ballet, just a simple Galadriel type of silhouette. So you want to keep the neck long. You don't want to make it stubby. You don't want to bring the head down all the way because that'll just make things look a little bit ridiculous. No, yeah. So just bringing it down this way or at the torso.
No,
yeah.
Silly,
yeah. So those are some ways you can push your designs. Those are just some really, really quick ideas of how to keep your design as you intended, as you saw it, but not settle for the simple stuff, which is just put a dress on or made of leaves. That's so easy. That's so simple. That's so basic. That's not what we're after when we do challenges like this. Not everything can be simplified in that way. You can't just pick a nice, because then it's already answered. Then they don't need to bring in an artist. They could just bring in a fashion designer and say, hey, just think flower, but fashion, but wearable, but clothing that you could put on a hanging thing. What are they called? The things that hang clothes? I completely don't know what they're called right now. What are they called? You want to think about the flower first. So that's the big moral of the story. You want to think like a scientist, like a horticulturist, like somebody who what matches with what works with what. And that's typically how you guys can start pushing. So this I was saving for last. So I want to look at that one last. Let's look at these two. This one, sorry. Starting with Ahmed, go ahead.
Okay, this one just confused me when I saw it. I there was so much noise going on that the only thing I could make out of the head and the hands, the fingers. I don't think this is a standing gesture. I don't think so.
Yeah, it looks crouching.
Yeah, it gives me that feeling, but there's so much happening. I can't trace anything. Like, where are the hands coming from? Like, I could see the torso, yes, but everything else seems lost. That's like the only thing I can see, maybe. Like noise, so much noise.
Ali, go ahead. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, it's okay. I don't have much to add.
I feel very similarly to you, where it feels like a crouching gesture, and it almost is like a boo, you know?
Yeah.
Booga booga.
Yeah.
I feel like you could have still had that kind of. I mean, this feels like a villain to me, which I'm sure that's probably what the artist intended. If not, please let me know. But it feels like a villain because of the arms kind of coming towards, like you're about to like prey on something, right? And you still could have gotten that without all the extra vinage and foliage and leaves by creating more of a humanoid, I guess, lower half. I can't tell where a spine or legs are, but if there were, it could still be like hunched over with like this very exaggerated spine, you know, and it could still be like this kind of skulking humanoid floral creature. So yeah, I would have taken away a lot of the foliage to make the human element read more. So we were talking about how, you know, where on the slider does everyone sit as far as humanoid or floral, and this one is like way into floral, where we have just arms after that,
it's
right?
literally behaving like a plant. Like he used like an actual reference and drew just that. Yeah.
They did answer a lot of the questions that others had issues with. So they made the flower emerge as the head from the torso. They explained where the torso is coming from, the hip, what's happening in there.
Oh, that's the head. Okay.
Yeah, and so that's the legs. It's kind of like it's sitting. So they did definitely meet all the requirements. One thing that's just off is the gesture. We lost the character in its gesture, that's all. We didn't get a chance to really appreciate it. They solved the whole cape situation by making it look like dying leaves at the back, but they all grow out of the same little bud that explains everything nicely. It doesn't feel like clothing, which is something that a lot of people had issues with this time around. That this, whatever you added, just doesn't feel like a costume. It feels like we're looking at a sentient monster, flower monster, which I very much like about this piece. Feels like you didn't force it. It doesn't feel like you tried to make it into this fancy dressed character, that you just accepted the plant as what it was and added that humanoid element. You didn't even bother with a face. You had the face option here, and you could have done with that, but then again, it would have just looked like another little elemental or character or costume, but instead you opted for this one, which I thought was a very mature design choice. You didn't take the decision that a lot of people, that the road that a lot of people took for this. You just accepted the plant as what it was, which is beautiful. You didn't try to make it something it's not, and you tried to add that little darker element to it. And the subsurface that you attempted in the petal, I think, is also really pretty.
Can I add something?
Sure.
So I think you broke off.
Okay. Yeah, I said sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, now I noticed I really like the face. That they didn't have any facial features. They just used that one like yellow thing. I don't know what's it called, but it looked like an eye. It read as an eye.
A single
I
eye,
really,
yeah.
I really like that. And now that I'm thinking about it, when I saw the other sketches, the like an old man watering plants, I think, you know, the impression you got, Alicia, at first when you said peekaboo. I think this is exactly what he's doing. Like he's raising little children. Like saying like,
Ah, that's so cute.
Oh.
He's like telling them stories and
because there's the same type of plant. But we had to read so much into it because it's so noisy. It would have been a really amazing design if it was really like tied a bit nicely,
cleaned up.
if you know what I mean.
In the sketches, I can see the gesture. It's in the final that I couldn't see the gesture. So that it changes everything. Once I can see what this creature is doing, it changes the entire narrative, because suddenly I can see that he's sitting, he's not crouching over like trying to scare these little buds
or creeping.
It's more endearing than that. But here, when I look at the final, it kind of looks like I'm the boogeyman.
Eat them.
And I never would have thought that had I looked at the earlier sketches. I don't even remember seeing these earlier sketches. This is like my first time seeing them, and I can it's like changing my entire perspective.
Yeah, but you shouldn't need sketches, though. You should be able to tell everything right from the start.
From the final.
Yeah, so sketches, though they are rough and at the start, we lose a lot after the sketch stage when we start rendering. That's one of the biggest challenges. How do I make sure I'm not losing my sketch, what I feel? Because I like the sketch, but as soon as I start rendering, I've lost the character. So many students ask me how to fix that, and that's just keep the sketch nearby. Keep it nearby. Keep the inspiration stuff nearby. You'll know, you'll be able to sense that you kind of left it, but also get critiques midway. What do you feel? Are they picking up what you're trying to illustrate, especially in the initial sketch? And I really like how another thing I like about this design is they pretty much capture the general just how this reads. The dry and then the living, and they really did try to stay to their reference. And this whole area here just showed this is the older senior plant, and these are the perky tiny ones. And so it did read as an old character, definitely. If that's what you went for, you got it. But because you had the majority of it be brown, that's why it felt a little bit more like a swamp creature boogeyman, as Ali mentioned. Where here you just have a couple that are dying, and the majority of it is green. It's still a very lively plant, but it does sag, looking like an old man crouched over, and I can see why that inspired you.
And there's so much to admire about it too. Like every artist, like even through the critique, like there's so much to be admired from every piece that's submitted.
Things that if we all painted an illustration, all of us together, we would paint like a god illustration, because we're all bringing something unique each time. There's no one person that did it all right, and all of us together would have created a complete creation. Let's move into this one.
Sorry, I think the most like interesting thing about that piece is that he's the only one who thought about age.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And let's talk about this piece now. So I think this is the last one. Let me do a quick check through them. I believe we got them all. Okay, so this is the last one.
I believe there's still one, but it was like flagged under not safe for work.
Was it?
Are you gonna have to link it to me?
No, it was not. It was not. I remember. It was just like a figure study.
It wasn't a submission?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't like erotic or something. No.
No, I'm saying it was a completed submission for the challenge with the work.
Yeah.
Can you link it to me really quickly if you could find it? So Ali,
it didn't have a picture. I remember it didn't have a front picture. It was like links.
Oh wait. Yeah.
Oh yes,
I know.
someone did.
Yes, I did have it. I did open it. I did have it.
I'm glad you thought of that, Ahmed.
Wait a second. No, there's more. There's more than the ones I've opened. No, we are wrong.
Yes. These.
Yeah, it is these two. So, quick thoughts on these two. Go ahead, Ali.
On this one, I feel like I've lost a little bit of the gesture. I had to go through and look through the inspiration images of like the flamenco dancers and everything to see what the gesture was. So it was almost to the point where it was like, okay, we have these petals that are like this cascading skirt, right? And then the leaves are the arms and the legs. And I just wish I would have seen a little bit more of the gesture behind it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it was like a clump.
Yep.
And it needs to be broken up just with like the silhouette and the floral versus human anatomy so that we can read the gesture a little cleaner.
Yeah.
And I would also do away with the eyes. Here I am just
Yeah.
wanting to like erase all the eyes. But
yeah. So 2 minutes or 1 minute for me. I think that this horizontal line is way too flat. It's completely broken up that skirt-like curvature. When you do that flamenco dance, you're doing a lot of little circles, and the skirt is supposed to create these swirling effects, which looks very much like a swirling of petals out of the flower. And you just have this almost flat line, and so it's kind of completely cut up, the feeling like this thing may be moving in the wind. Maybe this is mating dance, whatever it is, but you made it very flat and mechanical. Curve it upward so it's all coming out of one point of movement, and it's twisting together like some kind of, when you twist papers together and they all kind of move together, just showing where they meet at the top. And then the eyes look a bit ominous. It looks like an evil frost wizard. So I feel like you can get rid of it. And it's a very flamboyant head with a very flamboyant skirt. So why not just pick one or the other? Don't go with both. Make them meet at a certain point, all the petals, and then just solve the problem of the head by there being none. It's all just the skirt, and that's the majority of the flower. Ahmed, go ahead, 1 minute.
Okay, so I believe if you were to hide the head and the hands, it would only read as dress, as a floral dress. But they then very human. But then they had to add like a floral feature that is not directly linked to fashion. Then they added the head. The head and the hands seemed like an afterthought. And I don't think they're even the same flower. Like even if they did want to combine two different flowers, they had like two detached elements just like sewed in together, slapped in. They don't feel like they merge. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. And the next one. Go ahead, Ali.
Yeah, this one I really, really loved looking at the sketches on here. If you end up looking at any of those that they attach, a lot of the sketches were really beautiful, and I saw all of the potential there. But it looks just a little like I see human, but I almost see more alien than flower because I'm not seeing like the floral elements. It almost looks like she's just been like kind of like they've been covering her skin, but aren't really a part of her biology. And so that's what I'm missing from this piece. But I really liked like these sketches. Look at those. Those are gorgeous. I love the heads on the top, like how they were experimenting with the different floral elements, and that wasn't included there. And it's like it took my breath away when I saw these, and I was like, why couldn't I see this? This is so good.
Yeah. But they're great sketches for portfolio though, so they still pass.
Yeah.
So don't feel like you have to scrap sketches just because you don't have a final. But I'm speaking to the artist. Keep them, put them in your portfolio. These go, that they go far, and showing that you at least understand pre-production and all of that and experimentation. This is my favorite part. This headpiece, almost too short, feels like very alien, but has that alien flower. I did want real flowers from this earth, just so that you guys can look up that stuff. But you could have done that as well with this piece. Go ahead, Ahmed. 1 minute.
Okay, if you could look up the reference, the flower reference. The flower reference of this one is freaking amazing. The shapes of it. Yeah, scroll down. No, it's combined in one of these. Yes, this one. Look to the top right. Yes, the top right. Yes.
Yep, give me a minute. Yeah. Go ahead.
That's all right. Okay. You can see like at the very very extreme. Yes, here. Look at the shape of that like cacti or something. Yes, this one. Yes, this one.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like an alien plant. It's warping and morphing in a very very interesting way. I wish you could see the full image. I don't know if it's included in this one or the previous one, the one above it. Yeah. This one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
You see
beautiful.
it. You
Yeah.
see how interesting the shapes of it. Like so much organic anatomy could be pulled pulled out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And with it still looking like a plant, like a
Yeah.
really alien looking
Like
plant, but it's not.
shoulders here, chest here,
Yeah, it's all
thighs
there. It's all
here.
there.
This entire
Yeah.
it actually looks feminine. The plant itself looks feminine. There's not much you need to adjust out of the core photo, the base photo, in order to. You just need to crop some sections out, and then you'll get that. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
But you know, just figuring out where to add eyes, all of that stuff still applies if you want to add the eyes. You never needed in a face. Remember, guys, you didn't have to have eyes, nose, mouth. I know a lot of you have portrait backgrounds. It's hard to just paint something without a face. It kind of goes against your nature, especially after doing a 14-day challenge. You guys want to use your skill that you learn. That's why these challenges are so great, is because they make you, you know, you would never have experimented with this concept had you not joined. So thank you to everybody who joined. Let's take a look at this last one. And what do you guys think about it? Ahmed,
Okay.
go ahead. 1 minute, 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay, 2 minutes. The design of it, like the concept is like it tricks victims into hugging them by pretending it's a person. But even when it's pretending that it's a person, it's still very obviously like it's
Evil.
gonna fucking bite you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's you're not fooling anyone.
So what's the temptation you're saying, right?
Okay. I what I would have done, the same concept of someone tricking you into hugging them or coming closer to them and then biting you. There's this design in Dark Souls. It's called the Gaping Dragon. Basically, its own rib cage acts as a mouth, as a gigantic mouth. You start thinking it has like a normal head. Yes. It's a bit gory, but you get the concept.
Or
what?
Sorry, go ahead.
What if the mouth of the flower pretended at the beginning to be like a normal torso, and then it started to unfurl and start to hug you? So I wouldn't mind the design having human features if you showed it in transition into this type of beast, if you know what I'm saying. Like if you took the shot, the illustration in mid transformation into this horror of a creature, then yes, I would have believed you could have tricked me into coming close to it, but I would have never come close to that.
Yeah. One thing it reminds me of is the SpongeBob old lady ice cream stand surrounded by skulls, and the appeal for SpongeBob and Patrick is that she was selling ice cream, and that was the lure, that was the temptation, and it turns out to be this gigantic fish. I think it was this fish, I don't remember, but she even has a makeshift veiny cat for them to pet, and she has some ice cream, but obviously the ice cream is her hands itself that she's been. So obviously don't copy this, but you can see how you don't have any appeal at all, any temptation in any way. So how do you make it tempting? Like how do you answer that question? Ali, do you think you can answer that? How do you make this tempting? What's the temptation?
I don't know. I guess if you're talking about what's going, like different human beings might be tempted by different things, right? So it could be one of those things where, okay, maybe you make this tempting sexy flower or something, and then that would be like the easy fix, right? Is like, give it a feminine figure and dudes will like want to, you know, get with it. So yeah, that's the thing, is like maybe one of the fixes, if you didn't, like right now we can see the threat, even in its
Yeah.
most innocent looking state, right? So it's like maybe if those like that giant cocoon mouth, I don't know what that's called, but it's like the Venus flytrap portion of the flower.
Yeah.
Maybe if it rotated downwards and it didn't look like it wasn't always there open, like ready to catch something.
Yeah.
Maybe if it was something that was almost more camouflaged, kind of like down in the back, and it just looks like, you know, this floral element to this
Yeah. So it's just a
person.
person.
And then it's like when they get nearby, it comes out, you know, kind of like the poison dinosaurs from what's it called, Jurassic Park. Like,
yeah.
I don't remember what it's called, but you know, they're just
yeah, and there's no temptation. There's like no tempting factor. It's just that they're a normal person. You think they're normal, you interact with them, and then suddenly when you get close enough, they kill you. So there doesn't have to have a sexy element or a tempting element or ice cream. It could just be a normal character that's just talking to you and they're hiding their teeth. But obviously if you see the teeth, I mean, this is just a character design. This is a concept. So obviously we're just seeing the full capacity, and in game or in the movie, we wouldn't see all this stuff right away upon seeing this or meeting this character. But yeah, you have to show us how this stuff tucks away, out of the way, and it just looks like a normal little person, looks like a normal character, and then it ensnares you. But here, the way it's hugging, it feels a little bit sexual. That's why we thought maybe that's the tempting factor. And they're also very androgynous, so I understand why you made them feel like that. Very feminine face, very masculine body. Yeah. And then what's this? And this thing right here feels like it digests with this. It's not just a foot or a stand. This kind of like where it excretes the skull or the body of once it's done digesting, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That reminds me of the mermaid from Cabin in the Woods. Like, if you guys have seen Cabin in the Woods, but that's what it reminds me of. It like excretes through like its blowhole. It's like really funny.
I'm looking it up right now. Oh, geez, what the fuck?
Yes, it's like this one guy is like, I can't wait to see a mermaid, and then he sees a mermaid and like his dreams are crushed because that's the mermaid, and it has a blowhole, and when it eats people, it like excretes out of the blowhole like all blood and gore. So
is it like a scary movie with funny elements?
Cabin in the Woods is.
Yeah.
I will say like the first half is like the like horror movie trope version, and then the second half is like legitimately really entertaining, amazing horror movie if you're at all interested. But,
okay.
Yes. Give it a chance. I would highly recommend it. It's so good.
I was like, what's that? So that's it for today. Thank you everyone for coming in. This video will not be shortened. It's just going to be submitted and uploaded so everybody can revisit it and stuff. It's not, it's not really a promo video or anything like that. It's just us talking, hanging out, having fun together. It's a very long video today, but that's the fun stuff. We have to do this once every couple months because it's just always short videos or quick little things. I don't always want to do that. I want to keep some of the main stuff of the community intact. And thank you so much, Ali, for joining me. Thank you, Ahmed, for joining me. You guys made some amazing art today. And everybody, a lot of these artists today look up to you guys. And thank you for being active in the community. Thank you for participating and for allowing this educational experience to flourish. And I hope in the future you guys join again. And that's it, really. Do you guys have any goodbyes you wanna send out? Any thoughts? Anything like that? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ellie.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I just want to say how much I appreciate this community and everything that you do, Istebrak, because
thank you.
All of 2021, I worked my dream job as a character designer on a feature film and animation, and it was thanks to this channel. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Hands down. So if anyone is wanting to work in animation or video games or anything like that, like, know that what you get from this community is truly, truly priceless.
Thank you.
And
so much.
I appreciate all of you so much. I appreciate that we're able to do this, at whatever, stage you can afford. And it's really, really valuable education. So thanks for everyone for being amazing.
Thank you.
That is so true. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That really humbles me. Thank you so much. Go
I
ahead.
was telling Istebrak earlier before the stream that around a month ago I got a job in concept design again, thanks to this type of discussions that we have and this channel, this community. So thank you so much for having these challenges and this type of content always available for us
Thank you
for free.
so much.
So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. When I first
Yeah.
started
We
these,
had
that
so
was
much
my
fun.
intention. That was my intention, is to just make it possible for you guys. I think that there's a lot of paywalls out there, and it's unfair. Growing up, I didn't have these kinds of opportunities, so I thought it makes sense. It's the best way to counter a lot of that capitalism and that excessive paywall behind artists. I think art is like a guild, and we're all part of this guild together. And not everything should be for pay. Not everything should be subscription based. Not everything should be limited and siphoned through, just pay for every level of this. There has to be something that is easy to access for everyone, so that the future artists can build, so that they can be present in future productions. I mean, if everything is behind a paywall, then artists in the world, the population of artists will decrease more and more and more. And I didn't want that. And growing up with all of those limitations is really what inspired this community. Is not everybody gets jobs, not everybody has a chance to get hired for a freelance job where they might have to do a character that's floral in nature. Who knows when you're going to get another opportunity like that, or get a chance to have your environment studies critiqued, or you don't know when you're going to get another chance. So these are designed to make it feel like you got the job, you have the variety in your portfolio, and you could get hired. And seeing that is happening with you guys is just a dream come true for me. It's what this was all about. It's what I set out to do, and it makes me very, very proud.
Thank you so much, Istebrak.
Thank you guys. So that's it for today, everyone. Thank you guys for watching. What do you guys think on YouTube? Please comment. Do you guys like these discussions? I think 2 winners is a good balance. It's really fun seeing all these different perspectives. And I'll see you guys in the next challenge. If you guys want to stick around for the community, just go to istebrak.com and click on the Reddit icon at the top. It'll take you to our subreddit. That's where community challenges are posted. And I may have the narrative built by the community, the submissions from last year. That may be our next challenge. It'll be an illustration. It'll be like a movie shot, possibly. It may be just something else that I feel like the community is lacking, especially environments. So that may be the next one. But keep an eye out on the community. Join us, and if you're interested in supporting, please consider joining on Patreon as a watcher for $1. Today's class will be submitted in full, but future critique hours are shortened, and the full ones are available for watchers and up. Thank you guys, and I'll see you guys on Tuesday, the 10th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for a regular critique hour. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.